Hello and welcome to the official Hacks podcast from Max and Pineapple Street Studios. I'm Bobby Finger.
And I'm Lindsey Weber, and we're your hosts unpacking every episode of Hacks Season 4.
Today we'll be talking about Episode 9 with the man who plays Bob Lipka, Deborah Vance's boss, Tony Goldwyn, and then we'll welcome our favorite chaotic duo, Kayla and Randy. It's Meg Stalter and Robby Hoffman.
At this point, you know the drill. Spoiler alert, this is your official warning. If you haven't watched the episode yet, go back and watch it and come back when you're done.
Just because I have a guest on the show doesn't mean I endorse everything they have ever done. We had Marie Osmond on it. Doesn't mean I endorse her weird little dolls. Let's just move on.
In this episode, Deborah is forced to have controversial actor Ethan Summers on the show.
I was told I couldn't bring up your secret Snapchat account. Ooh, oh, stop. I'm kidding.
Ava accidentally leaks some show details that put her on the chopping block.
But I have a board to answer to, and I need to give them something.
Jimmy and Kayla have to get a drugged-up dance mom on stage with the help of little cocaine.
She wants you to boof it. She wants you to put it up her butt.
And Deborah abruptly quits the show in front of a live audience.
I might be a capitalist pig myself, but first and foremost, I'm a comedian. I care more about making this show the right way than I do about making shareholders happy. So yes, this is goodbye.
This episode is largely about the concept of a slippery slope, what it means to Ava, what it means to Deborah, like how the slippery slope leads to something like totally awful by the end of it. But let's start at the beginning because I've now watched this episode a couple times, and both times I laughed out loud when one of the opening shots is of Katie Couric. When she shows up in a television show, I'm like, there she is again. Hi.
So Katie Couric is interviewing Deborah Vance. We're getting kind of the CBS morning clips of, I feel like she's blowing up in a way where she's getting that type of coverage where it's
CBS
like,
Sunday
I'm
morning,
sitting
for sure.
down with Mo Rocca, and like it's, you know, it's one of those things where
Yeah.
they're digging in deep, like, what does this mean to you? Is this your dream? And she says like, this is bigger than my dream. And I think starting off the episode with that is really intentional, because by the end of this episode, as you know, because you've seen it, everything goes to crap.
Well, it's an important conversation to have because it keeps that tension of one of the final scenes when she's speaking to the audience. And part of you, I want to say, like, on my own terms, I would say maybe 60% of me, 65% of me was pretty sure that she was going to do the quote right thing and reveal that Bob had made these threats and made them fire Ava. But there was still that minority of me that was like, no, she's going to end up doing the wrong thing again because this is her number one dream. Like, we opened with this reminder that this is all she's ever wanted.
Okay, but my point is that so many seasons before this, like, instead of doing something they've done before, which is where both women kind of betray each other every season and we start from zero, there has to be a point in which they've stuck together. They've realized that, like, you know, they can only do this together. And that's why I liked this change of pace where Deborah stands up for Ava and says, like, I'm not doing this show without her, and actually means it. Especially it's the penultimate episode of the season. So it's like going into the final episode, we needed something really juicy to like kind of be the cliffhanger, which it provided for sure.
We talked about slippery slopes at the beginning of this episode, but something I liked about that specific term, which is, you know, it's very common. People are going to mention slippery slopes all the time. But when Ava uses it, Ava's using it in her like young millennial vibe that Deborah resents so heavily. And yet, when Deborah's on live TV and mentioning what happened with Ethan Summers and Ava, she's like, it's a slippery slope, and I didn't want to go down that path. I was like, wow, she's actually, when you watch her learn, you kind of want to hoot and holler. You're like, Ava is getting through to this woman.
Well, I think for her, it's kind of like, whatever she can do to save the show, she's going to do. And in the first part, it's saving the show because Bob Lipka is like, I want you to have this guy on. It's a cross-promotional thing for the network, and this is what I'm asking to do. And in Deborah's mind, it's like, this is what we do to keep the show running. This is my boss. This is who I listen to. But then at the end, when the show is threatened by Ava's potential firing, she says, well, the show would be nothing without her. It's not going to work without her. So I will, again, do what I have to do to protect myself from a bad show. So on both sides, she's like, these two outcomes are opposite now, we know by the end. But in the moment, in her mind, she's like, I have to protect the show, and both of those are the decisions she makes to do so. And even if it means that the show is no more, she's still protecting like what would have become a bad show in her mind, and that's the most important thing to her.
The central conflict of this episode is all about the repercussions of having Ethan Summers, this huge actor, on to promote his new movie because it's synergistic with the company. And Bob Lipka has said you have to have this man on, even though Ava says, but he's a sex criminal, he's a sex pest. They cast the perfect person for we millennials in this role.
6 Feet Under's very own Eric Balfour, looking slay.
Sniveling HBO veteran Eric Balfour.
Incredible. When I saw him, I was like, who's going to play the sex pest? Who's going to stand up and not play themselves? Because again, you're not going to have any actor coming on playing themselves for this role. And it was Eric Balfour. And he did a really good job looking the part, but also kind of having that one moment where, where Deborah makes the offhand remark about the Snapchat. And he kind of has he falters. He also has to dance with Dance Mom, which I thought was great. Only Eric Balfour is getting up there and dancing with Dance Mom like that.
Dance Mom after she has done
After she's boofed. Just kidding. She didn't boof.
She has not boofed. She's just done coke.
How many people learned what boofed meant by watching Hacks this week? I mean,
I'm raising my hand.
You didn't know?
I literally didn't know what it was.
That's crazy. You can boof so many things. Did you know that? Medication. You can boof.
Well, I obviously knew there were ways to boof so many things. I just didn't know the verb was boof.
To boof.
To boof.
Oh, it was great. Great acting. Oh, great drug acting by Julianne, too.
But after Eric Balfour's, perfect performance as this sex pest, and I mean this as the biggest compliment to Eric Balfour, Ava vents to her old boss from On the Contrary at a bar, very casually, Lewis. She does come clean pretty immediately to Deborah, which I appreciated because, we cannot let that sort of tension linger too long. And Deborah comes to her defense, which is yet another reason why I was surprised, partly that she did, because in this instance, Ava really did fuck up,
Yeah, and she should take responsibility.
She did it for the correct moral and ethical reasons, but she did fuck up.
But that's where Ava and Deborah will always differ. I think that's their ultimate disagreement. That's their ultimate tension, too. The way that they look at the world. They get along in everything else, comedy, the way that, perspective. But in terms of, ethics and kind of ethically what you're doing. Ava's just a different generation, and you really see that in this, where she really is kind of standing behind what she believes and won't sacrifice that for the show, for success or whatever. And Deborah's kind of lived a longer life, been sometimes you just gotta suck it up and do the thing, and that's where you really see them differ, especially in this conflict.
I know that we have to move on to our interviews with Tony Goldwyn and Meg Stalter and Robby Hoffman, but there's one more detail that I have to mention because I loved it so much. But when Helen Hunt comes back as Winnie and says that she started her career working on Terrence Malick movies, I was like, I love every new detail about this woman.
But it's interesting because that reveal is the reveal to Ava, who didn't know that it was Deborah that made the call. So that is kind of a new element to this, to Ava's knowledge before essentially she meanwhile, she's in the middle of getting fooled by Deborah to go to this thing so she can lock her out of the studio so that she doesn't stop Deborah from quitting. Because she knows that if Ava knew what was going on, she would sacrifice herself. She'd be like, it's not worth it. She would do something.
Right. Yet another reason for you to watch that monologue Deborah delivers and think, where is this going to end? Because I think Ava in that moment is pretty convinced that this is bad.
Right. And Ava would have been willing at that moment to say, I don't want you to lose the show on my behalf, I think. Which
is what Deborah says. Deborah says, I didn't want you with me because you would have told me not to do it. Okay, let's move on to our first interview with Tony Goldwyn, who plays Bob Lipka. Thanks for joining us, Tony.
It's my pleasure.
How did the casting process work for you? And were you a fan of the show before it came to you?
I was a huge fan of the show. I loved it. And they just called and said, would I be interested in being a part of it? And I immediately said yes.
Yeah. What was your response when you read the script and saw who you'd be playing?
Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
We all know some Bob Lipkas in our lives.
You know more than we do, I think.
I think I
met a couple. He's a powerful guy, but I thought there was an opportunity to just have some real fun with it. So
what, if anything, did you take from your own life? There's an executive in your family history. Did you draw from any personal experiences, or was it more from people that you encountered as a professional in the industry?
Yeah, it was both. I mean, my brother used to run a studio, and I remember being around him in his work mode when he was running Paramount, and he was quite different than he was in person. It was just so that was useful. Probably just a mix, and then some it was just me. You go, well, how would I do that job? Bob Lipka has to be quite ruthless in what he's doing, but he's not a terrible person.
Exactly.
He's just like, this is just the way it is. I just got to do my job, and he's obviously very good at it. And I started to think, well, this is a massive responsibility to be the head of a media company where you're responsible for, he has this line where I say to Deb, like, you're important, but you don't compare to my theme parks or my franchises. And you realize, oh, right. Yeah, that's a lot to take on.
Something the show does really well, especially with your character, is that I think it would be very easy to make a parody of a studio executive who's like full on evil, like with no gray area whatsoever. But Bob gets a little humanity in this show. Like, was that always on the page, or did you work into that?
It was always on the page, and it was always my intention. Even when we first met Bob last season, he and Deb had this affair. And there's when you first meet him, you go, is this guy just kind of a dick, or is he so I wanted to not. He's super friendly and charming a guy, and he says some things that make you question him, but so I was trying not to judge the people that I'm playing. And I do think that in general, hacks, one of the things they do brilliantly is you'll have characters that you can laugh at and don't shy away from the thornier edges of a character that are funny, and yet they have humanity. Helen does the same thing, with her character. There are moments when you first meet Helen's character, you think, oh, she's this like, hard-assed, ruthless killer executive. And yet she has scenes where you go, wow, that woman has a tough job, and she's obviously very good at it, and she's funny. So I just feel like the three of them and all the wonderful actors that they have on the show managed to walk that line, I think, brilliantly.
There's like disappointment at the end where he's like, gives her the ultimatum and she chooses something that he's like, are you kidding? Like, fire the head writer. Like, you can keep the show. The show can exist.
Yes, I think it's more than disappointment. I think it's tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pissed off. He's enraged that this is happening, and she's put him in a terrible position, and just, it's just all bad. But I feel what I loved about doing that scene was it really became about this great entertainer has just self-destructed in front of his eyes in such a tragic way to him. Because I think that someone like Bob, he loves what he does, and he loves creating entertainment, and he reveres the Joan Rivers of the world and the Deborah Vances of the world and the people that are these legends. And to be able to see someone at the pinnacle of their success have achieved a dream, suddenly just toss it away, and it's such a, to his mind, stupid and self-destructive. It's just it's tragic.
This episode also includes a rare fight scene for the show Hacks involving you and Jimmy. Can you talk about choreographing that scene? It's sort of fresh in our minds because we spoke to Julianne Nicholson about Dance Moms recently, and she talked about sort of the intensive choreography that went into creating these absurdist TikTok dances. What was it like staging that moment, that choreo?
It was. I mean, it wasn't like what Julianne does. So
yeah,
she's like, I trained for months. You had to fight the showrunner though, which I would say is a pretty kind of a big deal.
No, but ours wasn't choreographed that much. It was, what was fun about it is it was just super messy. So, Lucia knew basically was just like, she said, just throw the phone. And then we sort of were scrambling for the phone. But then we just did it. Like, we were like, I think we even said, Paul and I were like, maybe we shouldn't rehearse this too much. Just roll the camera and let us do whatever happens. And we only did it once or twice. And it was just so funny because the stuff that came out of our mouths was completely spontaneous. Like, I was like, give me my phone. It was like these two, middle school kids wrestling in the playground. It was hard not to crack up.
There's something about playing something, that is like within your own industry that you work in too. There is like, these are people that you creatively work with all the time. So there is like, you want them to have humanity because they're the ones greenlighting these projects that you pour your heart and soul in. And I think that is kind of why we'll never be fully, these are the bad guys, because really like they want the best for it as well, you know?
That's right. And also, I mean, look, you don't get to be a billionaire, or most people don't. You don't get to be that, to be able to maintain that level of power, and that without being a son of a bitch a lot, or you know, like to not care. Like, I don't care that I'm hurting you. I don't care that I'm crushing. I have to crush you. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And being a little bit, you know, you can't be overly empathetic. You wouldn't survive in that job. It's a ruthless job. I mean, you don't have to be, you know, it's not about that. But also, someone like Bob can be the most charming, seductive, wonderful person in the world that you would have dinner with him. You go, I love that guy. And then the next day he'd say, I'm sorry, you know, we got to let you go.
You're canceled.
The way he lets Winnie go. You know, he's just like, okay, Deb, you want that? What you want? She's out.
Right.
It's so callous in its business.
Right. And even the way that he handles that too, it's like she's complaining about something to him because they're friends in one way. And then he's like, wait, that was like kind of a business request. And like, I don't care. Like, I'm ruthless. Like, I'm fine. She's gone. She's gone.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's business. This our network star, Winnie, put her up there. And now she's holding the pen. She's asking me to drop a hatchet on this person who's just an executive.
Right.
And Winnie's great.
Yeah.
But she's also probably a pain in my ass sometimes, so I probably was looking for an excuse to, you know. But I, like that, in that way, you can go, "Wow, what an asshole!" But I couldn't do that job myself. I have too much empathy. I couldn't do it. I would fail. I wouldn't be a good agent myself because I can't. You know, it's why I'm not the best producer. You know, I'm a producer, but I always have to step aside for someone who's a better producer than me because I get too worried about what's going to make people happy. And
you need a bad cop to your good cop.
No, screw you. We're not doing that, or we're not giving you that. Sorry, too bad. So that, you know what I mean? Like, I would not be good in Bob Lipka's job.
You can't be a people pleaser in that position at all. Yeah.
No, and unless it suits your purposes, and then you're the most charming, wonderful person on the planet.
Yeah. Something that's sort of magical, at least very special about this show, is that Ava specifically, so many characters have more in common with Deborah than they think. And I think slowly they come to realize that they have a lot in common with this woman who can be so antagonistic and annoying and, like you said, charming. Like, she's so many things at once. But at the end of this episode, when he threatens her with this non-compete, he's like, if you do anything, I will sue you into oblivion. Like, you will be wrecked if you do anything. It's definitely something Deborah would have done in his position. You know, like, he's behaving like Deborah does, and I think Deborah maybe acknowledges that. But do you think there was anything personal and vindictive about that question, about that ask?
No.
Or do you think it was purely business?
100% not. It's the natural order of things. It's the consequence of what she did. Of course, I have a fiduciary responsibility to sue her to death till she dies. You know what I mean? It's like, that's who I am. That's what I do. It's like, I now have to crush you. You do realize what you've just visited upon yourself, and I will destroy you. And what a freaking waste. I think I say that. What a goddamn shame as I walk away from her. You know, like, do you realize what you've just done? I will now crush you. I will do everything in my power to destroy you. That's not personal. It's my job to do that. So I find that much more interesting than, I could have played it that way of like, you crossed me and I'm going to crush you. You know, that's not where Bob's coming from. So I felt that made it much more compelling, honestly. And you know, I think that's what those guys wrote, but it could have been played in a different way. But I just thought that would have been petty and not very interesting. You know, and Deborah, I mean, talk about ruthless. There's no, you know, what Deborah does, and Deborah sometimes more than Bob, I think. You know, Deborah does do things that are vindictive, and she needs to let go of them. You know, like her whole, you know, half the season is her being unable to forgive Ava. She's so hurt by her that she just won't let it go, and she ends up not doing her job very well because of it. And then when she moves off of it, suddenly they become successful, you know. So Bob is not like that. Bob's he's business. He's all business. You know, he's able to compartmentalize in that way, I think.
Yeah. And Bob's final threat against Deborah is what ends this episode and leaves us hanging for the finale. So I think we can end that here. You left us on the final note of the episode. So thank you so much for joining us, Tony.
It's my
this
pleasure.
Was great.
Thank you.
Okay, we are joined in the studio as teased with Meg Stalter and Robby Hoffman. We're so excited to have you both with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It's Kayla and Randy themselves, we're so happy you're here. I mean, you two were talking a lot before we started recording
Which you
this
like.
actual segment.
You liked
Yeah.
it.
And I
Okay.
loved it.
No, yeah.
You were talking about how you wanted the audience to see Randy and Kayla go to the movies together, like more
Yeah.
adventures with these two wonderful characters. And you had said, Robby, that you think that at movies, you should be talking. It should be like a Dodgers game, you said. How do you think Randy approaches movies? Because I'm still shook by the reveal that the only movie Randy
Yeah.
has seen is Speed.
That's so cute.
Did Randy talk during
Can I
that?
tell you that obviously Randy and Robby, not they're different. You know how like Beyonce is Sasha Fierce,
You have
right?
Randy.
She's like my nerdy, like very eager, but still, has Robbie-esque about her. My first boss on a show that I worked at when I was a writer's assistant, he reached out to me. He's like, I feel like I had this exact same Speed conversation with you, except about G.I. Jane, which is true. I saw G.I. Jane, one of the first movies I've seen. But yeah, I think Randy just loves movie, she's half an old soul. She's either 73 or 7. She's like toggles between very extreme emotional ages. And I think she still has a kid-like wonder about movies. She's still very excited to be part of Hollywood in any way, shape, or form, whether it's getting a coffee, whether it's like being in the office. Like nothing is too small a moment for her.
Lucia told us that when they called you to audition, you told her to name names for the other actors. And that is actually funny now seeing who else could have played. Like, it's
Well, it
not
was so
possible.
Oh, you said who else
nerve-wracking.
was auditioning?
Yeah,
Like,
because,
Name names?
yeah. She was like, we wrote this part for you and you have to audition. I'm like,
I know.
I don't have the temperament to audition. Like, I'm so much better, like, in the job. It's not even what you'd be doing. Like, it's
I'm not a good
different-
auditioner.
It's
It's a really bad tape for hacks.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like not the, like, just, you should day play me and see how it goes.
Put us
but
out
anyway,
on the day. See what
But now
happens.
watching
Fire
it,
us
it's
at
like-
the end of the day if you don't.
But now watching it, it's like, who else could have played? Like, I
No,
also
exactly.
agree. Like,
and
who
it's also
else?
so embarrassing if you audition for something written for you and you don't get it.
And you don't
Like, it's worse than if you
know.
just audition for something that's like, okay, like, imagine not being able to be like you when you have to be
someone
like
else
you.
does it
Right.
better. If they're
And
like,
so I was
someone
like,
else did it
who
better.
else? I was literally like racking my brain. I was like, well, name names. Is it Joan Rivers? Like, she's dead. Like, who?
Oh, she could do it. Oh, she could do it. Okay, you named a name.
Like, no, but who's it gonna be? Like, is it Rosie? She's in Ireland. Like, I was like, who's it gonna be?
And since both of you had these roles written for you ostensibly in some way, how much input do you have creatively once you are hired, once you are on the show? I mean, I know, Meg, you've been here since season 1,
Wild.
but Robby, same question to you.
Go ahead, Meg.
Oh, well, I think people ask a lot, oh, how much is improv? And there's always moments of it, but we also like the script so good that we always get what's on the script. And then I feel like we'll throw in little things and sometimes they'll be like, okay, you can't say that much.
Yeah.
Like if I really go off, it's like, okay, that's not gonna all fit in the scene. Like, okay, pull it back, or say something crazy here.
Yeah, I'm always trying too much to like, the script is so tight and
Yeah.
good. And then if you go off too much, it's like, you realize that if they kept all that in, the show would be 4 hours. And
Yes,
it's like,
exactly. We
and
can't
it wouldn't be a
physically
real
do-
show.
Yeah. Mhm.
But in your head, you pop them with a line. You're like,
Yeah.
they're gonna wanna.
They're always open to that. They love when we pop
do.
a line. They love when we pop a line here and there. And then sometimes Lucia will be like, go off, do a crazy take. And then it'll be like, okay, well, we'll use some of that, but all of it can't fit because that was 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think yesterday I caught one of my improvs at the beginning. I think that because I said, and I hesitate to tell you this.
Yes.
I think that
yeah.
wasn't originally. Maybe it was like something similar to that, And by the way, I hesitate to tell you there's been another incident on the Lassie set. So the incident on the Lassie set was there, but I hesitate to tell you. It's such a small nothing, but it's
No,
so
you-
informative.
It
Oh,
makes
I'm
a
always at
difference.
a little
How she
small.
talks,
Yes.
you
yes.
know.
And they love that.
And look, I hesitate to tell you this, but there's been another incident on the Lassie set. She bit again.
Are you kidding me?
As a former hospital administrator, I actually would never joke about a puncture wound.
Meg, you've been on the show for a while now. How do you think Kayla has evolved over the seasons?
That is such a nice question. I think that you got to see her be more vulnerable and know that I think you're like, oh, she's so wacky with Jimmy, but then you're like, oh, she really loves him. I think their relationship and friendship has grown a lot.
And very capable. I feel like her character is but yeah, you're stepping up in your same core. You haven't lost your soul, but you're capable. You're more confident. You're especially in this scene, where you're speaking back to somebody of the caliber of of Deborah Vance, and you're going after your biggest client.
You don't deserve him. And we as power bitches need to treat him better. No, I'm not going to shush, shush, shush. You shush, 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 earrings. I don't appreciate him either. I mean, he believed in me when no one else did. And what did I do? Push him to the brink, question his manhood, let a rabid collie give him staph infection. I'm sorry. But if this is how independent, strong women treat a nice guy, feminism has gone too far.
Whoa, hang on now.
I think that confidence, it just, empowers your character more oh, this is somebody who's now not just going with the flow. She's a decision maker.
That is so true. Because she isn't always, even though she's oh, she's always messing up, she kind of saves the day sometimes. And she's sort of a secret genius, I think.
Kayla and Randy are both completely underestimated characters who always have the answer to the question in their back pocket.
Yeah.
That seems like it's a very fun character to play.
Yeah, we come from different, she comes from such a positive, the world is going to be okay place. I feel so there's always a solution. Now she's capable of implementing that, this episode, so it was a real, stepping into that boss mode and leadership role. And then I approach the world, everything is fear. We're defensive driving. I'm prepared for all scenarios. She comes from this very positive, anything is possible, we can fix it. And I come from, keep your head on a swivel. I don't want to alarm you. We have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. I have contingencies. We're gonna get there. It might not be the way that you like, but I know a guy. I don't know his papers. I don't know his status. Okay. There's not always going to be the neat thing, but I come from a more pessimist. And so I don't know. It's a really nice,
it's a perfect pair.
It really is.
It is.
And then Jimmy has to juggle up and down. She's saying it's going to be okay. They could jump out the plane. And I'm you're going to die immediately on impact.
And they're both very loyal. Kayla
Very
and Randy
loyal.
are very loyal.
Morally sound people.
It's Randy. Hey.
Bro, I finally hacked into Dance Mom's iCloud. The password was D's Nuts 69, but the D's was with the S, and the Nuts was with the Z.
She's disgusting. Okay, did you find her?
Wisteria Lane, I'm sending you a pin. Go!
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God.
Honestly, Randy was an amazing hire.
I know, I never miss.
Why do you think Randy was able to hack into Dance Mom's phone? What skill set? Randy is always getting these fascinating new skill sets revealed in this season.
I don't know if you've spent so much time in religious Jewish, Hasidic communities, but the doctoring of phones or hacking in or because they have so many restrictions on what they can see or whatever. It's they have an iPhone, but it's stripped of this. There's no Google. It's
she's had to break into the phone before.
So she's wheeling and dealing. She's maybe not from academic schools, but she's from the school of life. And she's a street kid. Yeah. And you can sense that. And street and helpful to people working in hospitals, but also random odd quirks and jobs. So she's very, she's a street kid through and through. Thinks outside the box.
Always.
Yeah, so.
Did you guys love, well, especially Meg, tooling around the back lot of Universal Studios? That was one of my favorite parts where they're going through all the different rides. They're
That
all
was
going through all the different back lots.
fun. You know
The
what,
best.
though? It was really cold when we went past the
Oh.
shark and we kept getting wet.
Did you get splashed? Oh, well, they
Yeah.
can't help that. You got to get
They
splashed.
can't help you. You got to get splashed. We were freezing. But it was really fun. It's okay. So I love, and when I was little, I loved those playgrounds where it's fake grocery stores and cafes. Have you ever been to places like that? But also, it scares me because there's the uncanny valley feeling. So I actually also get scared. Like when you're in like even on a set, like if we're like
it is spooky.
in the fake office, if you turn the lights on, like our office was all fake and it's
Right.
very scary.
Yeah, for me, it's funny when I had a trip to visit my father here in Los Angeles when I was about 14 or 15 years old. And we went on that Universal
So cute.
tour. It was so meta and full circle for me. Like I was on that tour and still when I'm on the lot and we shot there, when I see the tours going by, like I was with Hannah and I'm like, it's Hannah Einbinder. You might want a picture. Like I'll point out anyone. I just want them to have a good time because that tour was so fun.
Special. It's so cool that they do that. And because when else would you be able to see those kinds of setups if you weren't like an actor?
You don't think it's real or that they really shoot on those
I
things.
know.
And then they
But they
really
do.
do. Like
Yeah.
shooting a show feels like a show about shooting a show. Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm in a movie about shooting a show, but we're really
Yeah.
using all this shit.
What was more unpleasant to you? You said that the uncanny valley
Oh, yeah.
can be a little disturbing. What was more disturbing? The Psycho House, the
Oh,
Psycho Hotel, or Wisteria Lane?
You know what? It actually is scarier to do the Mysteria Lane because I feel like the Psycho House is, it's supposed to be scary. It's fake, you know?
Yeah.
Also, the amazing actor that played the Bates Motel
He's
guy.
so
I was
good.
gonna say,
He
shout
actually
out
is
to that
in
guy.
he's actually in the tour. He's done it for like 10 years.
Why would you hire another guy? That's
I
the
know,
guy.
he's
what I was.
amazing.
That's
He
a great
works so
fun
hard.
I know.
No,
I
he's
love him.
excellent. And it was some of the physical comedy that you're capable of too. When you drove the golf cart swerving, like brutal driving. This girl's
I
like
was kind of nervous to drive it.
the boofing, total difference.
We were
Oh
just
my
that.
God.
You with the boofing when you were like, you're boofing.
You're gonna boof it! I'm not gonna boof it!
Fine, I'll boof it.
No, only Jimmy.
Nobody's boofing anybody!
Like
She's
you were
got to be
so-
Randy's like
But that was
girlfriend
some
comes
of your
to the office.
decision making coming. You're like, no, you are boofing. Like obviously he didn't. But the fact that you made that call.
I mean,
Mhm.
that scene just is insane. Julianne Nicholson
She's
is like
so
a
funny.
genius. Why is she perfect?
She's
Like
so
we
good.
interviewed her and we were like, you've done such serious roles, and then here you are on your hands and knees on all
Boofing?
fours.
She was incredible. That whole
So
scene that
funny.
you guys had.
So in that scene with Dance Mom, we find out after the fact that when Deborah quits live on camera, Jimmy has a fight with Bob. They're kicked out of the studio. Kayla comes running after him. And we find out that Jimmy's gone gorilla mode and Kayla's so proud. Meg, can you talk about gorilla mode?
Yeah.
Was that always in the script or was there a little bit of you in that idea?
Well, when she goes full gorilla mode is the first time that
Mhm.
we went gorilla mode in the script. And the line was something different. And then they added in all the other like half gorilla mode lines. But then when I said gorilla mode, Paul was laughing so hard that he was crying. Then he was making me laugh so hard I was crying. But I think gorilla mode is something that was written in, but it was a different word. Does that make sense? It was
That
like the
makes sense.
Okay.
idea was to go crazy for Jimmy because of what her dad did. But then the scene was, we filmed it really late at night. So we were kind of like being loopy. So I think gorilla mode just came out and then they added it in, which is so genius to add in a bunch of jokes.
Well, they're gonna like
reference
let us
something.
grow with it. Like what I really appreciate, I was so nervous the first time on set and whatever. Obviously, it's like also my first job. It's Randy's first day. Like we're both like in this together. I'm like,
So
it's her
nice.
first day. It's my first day. We're doing different jobs, but I'm rooting for both of us. But yeah, they make the character more and more you, and they let you be the character. You know, if you find something fun for the character, they more than not roll into that rather than saying like these are the strict rules about, because they're also learning about the character too. And it's as much as, you know, they bring so much to the page and the world, and then they let it like guerrilla mode.
Yeah.
Who is the actor we're going to hire and what are they going to do with
Mhm.
this?
And they're so good at improvising. So they're so,
crazy.
they have like 10 more jokes that you know,
Yeah,
like you say
sometimes
gorilla mode,
Lucia
they have
will be
10
like,
other
can you
things."
say this?
Yeah, it's so funny.
In the God mic, just like pitches on the fly type thing.
And also the idea that gorilla mode showed up and then
Yeah.
then they went back in and put
I
half
know,
gorilla
it's so
mode. Like you
funny.
had to
Did you
read.
get a
Yeah.
writing credit for that? SAG been informed?
Well, ultimately, that happens at the end of this episode, too. You find out how much Kayla adores Jimmy.
Yeah.
adores Randy. And it's this like, and Jimmy is almost sort of like alarmed or disarmed by the way she says it, because it's sort of like, wait, do you love me? Are you in love with me? What are you saying? But he's really moved
I'm
by
scared.
it. It's a really
Scared.
sweet way for
Because he doesn't
Kayla
get
to
enough
express
attention.
it.
He doesn't get enough love, so
He doesn't get enough attention.
overwhelmed.
And Kayla's been there all along.
true.
You know?
That is so sweet. Yeah, he didn't get the attention that he deserved, and now he's overwhelmed by the love of his ladies.
Yeah. Yeah. And he maybe like wasn't, because people receive and give love differently, and he's starting to understand how they've loved him and who's been there. It's an aggressive form of love for him, but he can finally
He's
you
not
know,
completely
feel it.
comfortable with it,
Yeah.
for sure. But he, I think, is moved because he always wanted sort of approval, and he
Yeah.
gets it from people that maybe he didn't expect it from.
I love the "Are you guys a couple?"
Yeah, he's like
Moment.
kind of scared. Like, wait, is that what we are?
Like, are we?
Are we a couple? Are we a couple? We're not a couple. We're not a couple.
You can see it going too far for him. The love
Yes,
for a
yes.
second.
Yeah.
But Kayla means it in just a very earnest,
like
direct
co-
way. Like there's nothing
partners.
to unpack. It's just we're a couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
She's
Jimmy overthinks everything.
Yes.
Kayla takes everything at face value, you know?
But she's also not meaning it as a couple.
she loves him.
You never know with her. Like, you just.
Right.
And he goes, no, I'm not. Like, because he can't 100% trust that she wouldn't be happy being a couple. And you know.
But she goes with the
Being a
flow.
real
That's
couple.
the thing. She doesn't
Yeah.
overthink. It's like if he asked her out, she'd be like, okay.
we're married.
Yeah, we're
like,
married. Who
This is
cares?
his room. This is my
We'll
room.
be open.
like-
True. Randy's
Yeah.
like officiating the marriage. There's like a marriage license
Yes.
somehow that appears. It's like, oh, well, we did this for health insurance or whatever, like for the business. Yeah, there's something fun about it where who is the better agent has switched, where it's like the viewers are kind of like going into being like, Jimmy has experience, like he's the kind of Nepo baby in the industry or whatever. And now you're kind of seeing in this season, which is really fun. It's like, actually, like Kayla is the better manager.
Wow. I just got the chills when you said that.
Yeah.
I'm so, I mean, Jimmy keeps getting bitten by dogs. He's getting in fights, but
But also, the show is making the argument that
different skill sets.
what they need
Sure,
is
sure.
each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah,
You
of
know,
course.
like
Much like
they're
Ava
each
and
lifting
Deborah.
each other
Yeah,
up.
like he can finally
Yes.
fall apart and be a person. And almost it's as if he's allowing himself to do that because he somewhere deep down knows she's got it. So he
Mhm.
couldn't really
You're right,
fall
yeah.
apart before. But now he can, you know, just, you know, the avalanche can come down and it'll be, and then he'll get through it and maybe they'll come out of this stronger.
What do you hope for your characters in the future?
I really would love a big vacation with them. I want to
Mm.
see them just go wild. I want to see Kayla's influence on Randy style wise. And
Yeah, we should have a
Style-wise.
Schaefer and Lusac retreat.
Yes.
such a good idea.
Yes. Yes.
And I book us at Sandals.
Yes.
There's
We're
kids
so-
everywhere. It's a great deal.
I want to also see Jimmy's dating life. I want to see him
Mm.
bring someone to the office, and me and Kayla and
I
Randy
hate
sort
her.
of hate her
Immediately.
and try to plot to get her out of
She's
here.
not good for you. She's
Yeah.
not for business.
They're both jealous.
It writes itself. I mean, honestly, it writes
It
itself.
would be
That's
perfect.
great.
Robbie, if Randy had to watch one more movie as Robbie, what would you recommend to Randy? Like, what's another movie that would sort of like that would encapsulate what it means to be in Los Angeles
Oh, yeah. Good.
and be a person?
Miss Congeniality.
Oh my
baby.
god!
Miss Perfect. More Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
Oh,
More
you gotta
Sandra
go.
Bullock.
If you have Sandra, you don't need anything else. Sandra
Yep.
Bullock's got you.
Thank you for joining us. This
Thank
was
you
so
so
much fun.
much.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you
We
so much
appreciate
for
your
having
patience.
us.
Congratulations
you're
on the
right.
season. It was fantastic.
It's so fun.
You really were.
You were.
No, but stop.
You
Stop.
are.
You know it's not true.
Yes,
This last
it is.
episode, you were insane and great.
And that's it for this week. This has been the Official Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Finger.
And I'm Lindsey Weber. We'll be back next week to break down the finale with creators Paul W. Downs, Jen Statsky, and Lucia Agnello.
This podcast is a production of Max and Odyssey's Pineapple Street Studios. Our executive producers are Gabrielle Lewis, Barry Finkel, and Jayanne Barry.
Our producers are Melissa Akiko Slaughter and Ben Goldberg. Our associate producer is Natalie Peart. Darby Maloney is our editor.
This episode was mixed by Hannes Brown. Pineapple's head of sound engineering is Raj Makija. Pineapple's senior audio engineers are Marina Pais and Pedro Alvira. This episode was engineered by Javier Cruces.
Special thanks to Kenya Reyes, Alison Cohen-Surokach, Aaron Kelly, and Becky Rowe. Production music is courtesy of Max. You can watch new and old episodes of Hacks on Max. Big special thanks to Tony, Meg, and Robbie for joining us today on the show. Till next time.
Just this week, he practically blew cocaine up a certain dancing mom's ass. I'm not mentioning names. He almost boofed it for your show.